With Legendary's Godzilla being set in a universe not too far off our own, gives us the opportunity to explore the franchise's esteemed weaponry, with a variety of different firearms and vehicles being explored by humanity in order to fight back against the Titans, most notably Godzilla. Now, which of these weapons have proved to be the most effective against the King of the Monsters? Which have caused him to show pain and even flee the battle? Let's take a look at the real-life weapons that can hurt Godzilla. The first handheld weapon we're going to look into is the MP5A3. This firearm is seen being used against Godzilla in battle. SWAT officers were deployed on top of a hotel in Honolulu in order to get a vantage point and properly defend the citizens that had since retreated to higher ground following the tsunami that hit, which preceded Godzilla's landfall. The officers engaged Godzilla using the Heckler & Koch MP5A3, which is seen by many as the most popular variant of submachine gun in the world. This fully automatic firearm utilizes 9mm by 19 caliber rounds. It has a magazine capacity of 30 rounds with a 100-meter drum and fires at a rate of approximately 800 rounds per minute, with speeds of 270 meters per second. Its accuracy and reliability and compactness makes it a favorite for special operations units all over the world for over 3 decades. The MP5 was the weapon of choice for US counter-terrorist units as well as Navy SEAL boarding teams, and is still used by special forces to this day. This specific variant of the weapon is still being used by USMC special reaction teams, which are designed to respond to crisis events like what's seen during the attack on Honolulu. For modern conventional use, this weapon is certainly no joke, but to Godzilla it might as well be. In Hawaii, from the estimated 100-foot range it was fired at, to Godzilla, he may have felt it tickle as hundreds of bullets bounced off his skin. However, their tactics involved deterring Godzilla away from the civilians rather than outright wanting to kill him. But let's move on to the next weapon used against Godzilla and the Titans. The M4A1 carbine was the most prominent firearm used throughout the Titan events of 2014. A bomb disposal expert, Lieutenant Ford Brody, who was pivotal to the success of taking down the Mutos, used a modified M4 with an EOTech 552 sight and PEQ-2 laser module for extra precision. This firearm utilizes armor-piercing 5.56 by 45mm NATO rounds. It is fully automatic with a magazine size of 30 rounds, though different capacities are also available. It has an effective range of 600 meters with a firing rate of 950 rounds per minute. It's considered a rugged, simple, and accurate rifle for military use. This firearm can really do some damage, with the female Muto even showing signs of being hurt in the Battle of San Francisco with assistance from the M136AT4. An 84mm anti-tank rocket launcher, which surely left a mark. It was also used against Godzilla alongside an array of heavy weaponry, to act as sufficient suppressing fire against the Titan. But alongside these firearms was the deadly M1 Abrams battle tank. Weighing 60 tons, this beast, piloted by 4 crew members, was the backbone of the armored forces of the United States military. The purpose of this vehicle is to provide mobile firepower for armored formations of sufficient capability. Despite its weight, it can cruise at a speed of nearly 45 miles per hour, thanks to its 1,500 horsepower gas turbine engine. But most importantly, it has one hell of a cannon, sporting a 120mm smoothbore gun. Though due to the increased caliber, only 40 rounds are able to be stored, though the impact of the blast is devastating. This tank fires kinetic energy rounds made with depleted uranium with a muzzle velocity of 1,575 meters per second, reaching a maximum range of 4,000 meters. And whilst the force of the cannon did some damage to Godzilla, making him feel uncomfortable as it fired on his ribcage, it was the incredible tactic that many have missed when analysing the scenario, and that's the fact that the tanks aimed for the gills. This organ is used by sea creatures so they can breathe underwater, and they're the weak spots for even the most terrifying of predators. This soft spot left Godzilla with a disadvantage as the heavy weapons opened fire from all angles. Godzilla writhed in pain as the shells breached his gills. Assisted by the FN MAG, a 7.62mm machine gun that was mounted to the turret to support the M1A1 during combat, but can also be mounted to aircrafts, ships, boats, or even a handheld tripod. It has a muzzle velocity of 840 meters per second and has a fire rate of 650 to 1000 rounds per minute, with a firing range of a whopping 3,500 meters. Considering the firepower of this heavy machine gun, it would have most certainly penetrated Godzilla's skin, especially the weak spots like the gills, causing him some discomfort. However, these weapons were unfortunately not enough to prevent him from crashing through the bridge, leading to the loss of 178 civilian lives and 58 military personnel. But these weapons so far have accommodated for the ground, but don't forget the Air Force. Used against the Titans, we have the Lockheed Martin F35 Lightning II. Fighting alongside the USS Argo, the F-35A fighter jets have the ability to fly at speeds of 1,930 km per hour, over 5.5 times the speed of sound. Carrying GBU-12 Paveway 2's laser-guided bombs with an effective range of 15 kilometers, these weapons were capable of complete destruction of armored formations within the effective blast radius. Used against Monster Zero in Antarctica, the force of the blast caused the creature to cover itself and retreat when it realized it was outnumbered. These weapons proved to be an effective backup for Godzilla during their fight. Though this next weapon is one that, like Godzilla, clouds out the sun. The nuclear bomb, the likes of which awoke Godzilla from his slumber in the 1940s. This devastating weapon is capable of flattening entire cities, and of course we bear witness to that following the horrific events of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. The variety of nuclear weapons used against Godzilla have ranged in power throughout the years. In 1954, the military planned to lure Godzilla to Bikini Atoll using the Little Boy nuclear bomb, the same bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima in World War II. It has a blast yield of 15 kilotons, which is a hazardous range of 64 kilometers, with man-made structures being blasted away within a span of 340 meters and biological matter being vaporized within the fireball at 180 meters. Their plan worked, and Godzilla took the bait. Godzilla took the force of the blast face first, and retreated back to the ocean. Some permanent burns, mutations and lacerations can be seen throughout Godzilla's body, though he has since mostly recovered. This was before the discovery that Godzilla in fact feeds on the radioactive material that is otherwise fatal to mankind. In 2019, another nuke was used against Godzilla, except this time to revive him. Following a detonation of the Oxygen Destroyer, a weapon deployed by Admiral Stenz to kill the Titans, Godzilla was left grievously injured and depleted of radiation. However, he found enough energy to swim to his home at the bottom of the ocean to begin the long recovery process. Monarch was prepared for the situation and was able to deploy a nuclear device at close proximity to the slumbering Titan. This weapon was reported to be a modified Trident II launched ballistic missile. The Trident II submarines can hold a variety of nukes, with a yield ranging from under a kiloton all the way up to 100 kilotons, over 6 times more powerful than the bomb that flattened Hiroshima. Based on the size of the explosion, the culprit was most likely the W-76-2 warhead, a nuclear bomb with a yield of 90 kilotons, enough to completely decimate the city and force a submarine all the way to the surface. The bomb itself is relatively small and can be detached, with the majority of the weapon's mass consisting of the missile. Dr. Ishiro Serizawa gave his life that day, but thanks to his sacrifice, he saved the lives of billions, because the radiation from the nuclear device gave Godzilla the energy he needed to get back up and fight back against Monster Zero. Though there was a side effect, a pretty big side effect. Since Godzilla was initially depleted of radiation, the bomb going off in such a close vicinity caused him to overload, with his biological internal reactor producing far more radiation than his body could handle. His body began to go into meltdown, internal body temperatures began to rise, and he commenced the process of going thermonuclear, where his body would burn and an extreme amount of radiation would erupt into the atmosphere. This would not only kill Godzilla, but would also wipe out a significant region of the continent, leaving it uninhabitable. Thankfully, during the Battle of Boston, Mothra sacrificed herself, giving Godzilla a way to ventilate that radiation, which was then able to be dispersed from his body in waves of devastating thermonuclear blasts, which only affected the then evacuated city, though the explosions were far less destructive than what could have happened if Godzilla began the meltdown process. Godzilla may be a fictional creature with the power of dispersing nuclear energy, but that doesn't mean our current man-made weapons can't hold their own. The weapons have demonstrated their ability to do some serious damage, with the heavy machine guns, tanks and fighter jets all making the monsters uncomfortable, and with the nuclear weapons almost killing the king of the monsters and potentially the rest of humanity. One thing stands out, and that's the tactics used by the military. Aiming for the gills was an incredibly smart move that taught us a lot about the Titans and how they function, but one that unfortunately didn't save the civilians on the bridge. The Titans are simply too powerful for conventional human weapons, but who knows what the future holds? Will mankind finally take the crown as the true king of the monsters? Only time will tell. Our technology is advancing at a terrifying rate. Instead of gigantic weapons of mass destruction, experts continue to design quiet methods of elimination. Drones, EMPs, and nanotechnology, things that our human eyes can't even see. And maybe someday one of these weapons will be too much for even Godzilla. But for now, the true king of the monsters is here to keep the balance of the planet's ecosystem in check, so that nothing can violate the laws of nature. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at DangervilleTeam so you don't miss out on all the Godzilla news before we even make a video about it. If you haven't already, subscribe and become a resident of our lovely town of Dangerville today. I've been Alistair, and we'll see you in the next one.